Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. I just want to take this opportunity to extend welcome and greetings to my colleagues online. I see a few. So I want to thank our host, Mr. Miller. I see Ms. Samuels, and I don't want to get in any trouble, but yes, yes, I see Ms. Samuels. I'm not seeing anyone else as our colleagues. Mr. Miller, are you seeing anyone else to nudge me? All right, so while we navigate through the participants list, I just want to welcome each and every one of you to this one of your critical preparation sessions for your upcoming presentation and interview that's for the JPA and for your manifesto presentation for the NSSC nominees. Now, this evening we have two sessions successively. We will start with our public speaking presentation, which will be done by Ms. Tina Rainier. And Ms. Tina Rainier is actually an alumni of the National Secondary Students Council. I will allow our JPA applicant, Taj Melbourne, to introduce our presenter for this evening. And we'll just have it flow. So Ms. Rainier will present, and then afterwards she'll take question and answers from the participants. It'd be lovely for you to get in the habit of opening your mics, opening your cameras, minimize the use of the chat, because when you're in an interview, when you're doing the debates, you can be used in the chat and not have your camera on. So get into the habit this evening to practice that and try and settle your nerves, all right? Do we agree?
Yes, we do.
Yes, Miss.
Yes, we do.
Awesome.
Mr. Carty is here as well, Miss Mark.
Welcome, Mr. Carty. Welcome. All right, so I'm gonna hand right over now to Taj Melbourne, one of our applicants in the Jamaica Prefects Association, that application listing. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Miss McLaughlin. Good evening, everyone. So, Miss Tina Rainier is an accomplished scholar and public intellectual whose work bridges Caribbean-centered research, global development, community-grounded advocacy, and youth development since the year 2005. Hailing from humble beginnings in the beautiful parish of Hanover, she holds a Bachelor's of Science in International Relations with a first-class honors from the University of West Indies and a Master's of Arts in International Development Studies from St. Mary's University in Canada. She has authored 40 research publications spanning peer-reviewed journals, books, co-authored chapters, technical reports, essays, and public commentaries, with her research cited in Routledge Development Studies textbooks for students, academics, and policymakers. Ms. Rainier has contributed as a technical expert to regional policy initiatives, including the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean 2025 report on data embassies, demonstrating tangible influence on the Caribbean digital resilience and governance strategies, and the UNESCO's report on youth involvement in global citizenship education. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's presenter, Ms. Tina Rainier.
Warm greetings to you. Thank you so much, Mr. Melbourne, for your lovely welcome. Thank you, first of all, to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information for hosting the series of capacity building to foster and to inspire the next generation of youth leaders and advocates, not just for Jamaica, but for the Caribbean and for the world. Before I get into this presentation, I'd like to do an energy check. And I'd also like to establish that this session is expected. It will not be a lecture. It will not be a teaching session. It will be a very interactive session in which we will ask questions, which we will have dialogue on public speaking, right? And it's also your safe space as well. So just to have that energy check-in, I'd like to know from you, how are you doing this evening? And you could comment in the chat, or you could freely speak up. What are some of your expectations for this evening's public speaking session?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I hope everyone else is doing well as well. God has been good, the showers have been wonderful, especially indoors now. From
Mm-hmm.
this meeting tonight, I am truly expecting to learn more about how I can improve my public speaking skills. I think it's something I have been progressively working on since I was younger. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
always a talkative child, but as I try to grow in that capacity, I'm hoping that this meeting will leave me with added knowledge.
That is excellent. Anyone else would like to share what are their expectations for the public speaking session?
Good night, everyone. My name is Dejanay Connolly. As someone who I would say is very active in the advocacy space and I have a lot of experience with public speaking,
Yes.
my expectations for this session is really to just expound on that ability and obviously to help assist me with my presentations for JPA as well. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. And that you will learn throughout the outline of the presentation. All right. Anyone else would like to share before I get into public
Good
speaking?
night. Yes, I would. Good night, everyone. So my name is Gavania James, and one of the few things I would like to learn, or one of my expectations for tonight's meeting, is how I could control my facial expressions, especially when I'm in public and something isn't going according to plan, and my face shows it, my face tells the story. And I've always heard about that growing up. They must say, fix your face, but I genuinely, I can't. I feel as though I can't do it. So that's one of my expectations for tonight.
All right, excellent. So the outline of our presentation, this is a flow of it. So we'll start by a brief overview of what is public speaking and why is it an important leadership skill, especially at this level of being representing young adolescents and students across Jamaica. Then we will go into the role of public speaking in leadership representation as both the Jamaica Prefect Association and the National Secondary Student Council will be hosting their elections. We will then go into building confidence and communicating clearly. So this thing about pronunciation, enunciation, um, facial expression, body language, that will come under that specific topic. Then we will look into how to structure your manifesto or your speech presentation to have a very positive impact on your audience. Then we go into active listening and student engagement, persuasive storytelling, right? How to connect the experiences of your student community and how to connect that to your speech. And then finally, tips for media interviews and debates. And then we'll have a lovely question and answer session, right? So, how are people feeling about that lineup in terms of the outline?
Good night, everyone. I really like it. My name is Anelia Archer. Sorry for not
Yes.
introducing myself. Um, so how I feel about the lineup is that I was gonna say it earlier. I raised my hand, but yeah, the pronunciation and enunciation. Doing JCDC, that has helped me a lot in learning how to pronounce my word,
Yes.
and enunciate and learn also how to talk to people and show expressions and show emotions. But
Mhm.
I'm still not perfect at everything and I would like to get into it better. So based off the lineup, I like how it's involving me.
Right. And this, as I said, this platform or this training is not about perfection, right? It's to train you for excellence. It's to empower you. And again, it's a safe space for improvement. So we don't expect perfection from you. And even some of the most exceptional public speakers and leaders, none of them are perfect in that scale. All right. So take that as a way of an affirmative word of encouragement for you. So, before I begin the introduction on public speaking, I'd like to hear from you. What comes to mind when you hear the word public speaking?
Can you hear me? Good night. Can you hear me?
Yes.
But when public speaking comes to mind, I think about confidently, as you're saying, enunciate and confidently speak in front of normally a large audience, a large group of persons. So that's what comes to mind when I think of public speaking.
Excellent. And you are correct. Public speaking is actually the delivery of a speech presentation to a live audience. Now, as it was said to you previously, I was a member of the National Secondary Student Council. I was the Secretary PRO for Region 4 NSSC, and I was the first person from Hanover to actually not just participate in that role, but to win. And I remember speaking before a live audience at the headquarters for the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. And don't be afraid about the nerve wracking. All of us, before we publicly speak before a live audience, we do have anxiety. So I'll get into that. But public speaking, it is a key leadership skill, especially when you're engaging your electorate and you are representing not just community concerns or student concerns, but at the regional and the national level. So that is why public speaking is important for your leadership. So public speaking, this is a very important point. It's not just about how to deliver a speech, but in order to deliver an effective speech, you are expected to build trust and relationships with students. So any of you, especially persons who are running for different regional and national positions, as well as the Jamaica Prefect Association, could you share an example of your personal experience of how do you go about building trust and good relationships with the student bodies at your particular school?
Good night, once again. Governor James here. So one of the things that I would have done serving in my tenure as student council president was I ensured that I was approachable. And I let the students know that, hey, I'm not above you. I may be in a leadership
Yes.
position, but I am still your friend. I am still your schoolmate. And I am still, and most of all, I'm your student council president. That means that you can come to me, you can talk to me. I ensured that when I was speaking to them as well, I didn't oh, I'm better than you. So you have to man or you talk to me, you have to watch or you talk to me. I tried before anything else to be their friends because students find it so much easier to speak to you when they're your friends, or not even just being their friends, but when you're friendly, when you're nice, when you're sweet. No, man, I say you have to be giddy head and fool, but have a what's the word? Resonate with them on a level. I was kind to them and spoke to them very well and never behaved as though I was better than them. So that's one of the things that I did.
Yes, that's excellent. And very good advice to share with your peers. Anyone would like to share their experience about building trust and relationships with the student body?
Well,
Um,
good night, everyone. My name is Chantel Henry. I serve as deputy head girl for St. Helens. So, as the deputy head girl, what I do, I ensure that students remember that I too am a student. I have experienced what they're experiencing. So it is important for student leaders to really remember that you're students before you're student leaders. And you may also have done what students are doing right now. So that's something, and to effectively communicate with them, understand their point of view. If they're doing something wrong, you explain. You don't be so authoritative that, oh, instantly I'm going to report you to the teacher. You
Mm-hmm.
ensure that you remind students of what is to happen and what is not to happen. So that's what I do as a student leader.
Excellent. I really love the viewpoints and the perspectives that you've shared. All of these are valuable. So in order to be an effective student leader, this is how important public speaking is. You're expected to communicate in ways that help students understand the issues that affect them, whether directly or indirectly. By having good public speaking skills, you allow your student body to feel heard and feel respected. They feel motivated to participate in this decision making process. When engaging with electorates, and that's the audience that you're going to speak to, the student bodies across Jamaica that is going to elect you, you should focus on making your ideas very easy to understand. So, with public speaking, I know there's a tendency for persons to use very complex terminology or jargons that are related to a specific subject area. But for a message to resonate, going back to what some of your peers have said earlier, you have to ensure that your ideas are easy to understand. Speak in a way that reflects genuine commitment to student concerns. So, in order to be an effective public speaker, you should not only be passionate about the issue because you're also a student, but you're expected to display commitment to the concerns, commitment to inspiration, commitment to empowering the student body, and commitment to change. And another aspect of effective public speaking in leadership representation, while you're speaking about the everyday experiences, the challenges, and the concerns of your student body, you're expected to weave in research or evidence based data. So let me give you an example of how you can do that in your speeches. So when I met with your NSSC president, which is Brian Anderson, Brian wants to work on mental health policy among the National Secondary Student Council. Now, when you're putting forward a proposal for mental health policy, you need data to support policy development. So what you could mention is the number of youth who are affected by different mental health issues in Jamaica, right? And places that you could go for that. There is regional data in the Caribbean. There was a research that was done in late 2025 and an upcoming report for 2026 that you could mention. Just light data, nothing too complex. Again, it should be easy to understand, but you need that evidence to balance off the realities or the concerns your students have. All right. So that's the importance of it in your speech and for effective public speaking. And my final point under this topic, one of the keys to mastering effective public speaking is effective dialogue with your students and also active listening. By actively listening to their concerns, by actively listening to their challenges, by actively listening to what their needs and interests and their priorities are, and by developing even dialogue, a reciprocal dialogue with them, you're better able to enhance and to improve your public speaking skills. Any questions before I move into the next subtopic? Any reflections? Anything you'd like to share?
I think you summarized it perfectly.
All right, great. So I'm on to the next subtopic, which is building confidence and communicating clearly. I know this is a subtopic that many of you have been waiting for based on what you've stated in the introduction. So I want to affirm you, many of the world's greatest leaders, many advocates, many activists, many practitioners, many policymakers, everyone who has to draw on the public speaking or oratory skill. They feel nervous at some point when they're asked to speak publicly. And I want to affirm you that feeling nervous, feeling anxious before speaking publicly, this is completely normal. However, your confidence improves with effective preparation and practice. And what this segment is going to do step by step, it's going to teach you how to prepare that manifesto or that specific speech. So what you'd like to do as part of your preparation is to prepare your key points in advance. So after you have spoken with the students, after you've had dialogue with them, after you have observed the priorities over time, their challenges, their concerns, what are the things they would like, the areas that they would like to see changes in, this is when you're going to start jotting down what are some key points I'd like to have in my speech. Before you speak publicly, and this is the preparation aspect of it, not the actual speech, in your preparation, take slow breaths before you speak to help with anxiety. Another thing you like to focus on during your preparation is to focus on the message of your presentation, and that will help to reduce your personal anxiety. So here are some tips to organize your speech or your manifesto. So there are 4 components. Your first component, your introduction. Your introduction, you are expected to introduce yourself. What position are you running for? Whether it's a regional position on the NSSC or national. And in the case of Jamaica Prefects Association, which of those positions are you running for? Why you're running for the position? And another way you can open your introduction to make it interesting because you're engaging a live audience, think of a short story, a short quote, something that is interesting that shows what your values are and why you are the most ideal person for the role that you're vying for. So that's your introduction. Your body should contain the 3 to 5 most important ideas. So there are many concerns that affect Jamaican students at different levels, at the regional level, at the local school level, and nationally. So what you want to narrow down on, because you only have 5 minutes to get that into a presentation, I would say focus on your top 3 to 5 central ideas, concerns, or challenges. Then part 3, you're going to look at recommendations. What are some of the suggestions? What are some of the initiatives or projects or programs that you plan to implement to bring about the change to address the 3 to 5 concerns you have? And for your conclusion, you're not just going to summarize, you're also going to invite engagement. Give the audience food for thought. Give the audience something tangible to remember. Give them something that leaves them feeling inspired and empowered. So that is how the steps in which you're going to organize your speech or manifesto presentation. Now, when you're practicing or preparing, you can practice with another peer, you can practice with a friend, you can practice with a family member, preferably someone who you're comfortable with as part of your preparation. You should ensure there is clear voice projection, right? Your voice can't sound monotonous throughout the entire speech because a monotonous voice causes persons to be either bored, exhausted, not engaged with your speech, and they don't want to listen. So for important points or points that need emphasis, you raise your voice. And when I say raise your voice, I don't mean shouting, but raise voice for emphasis. And for other points that are equally important, but not within your 3 to 5 important points, you can modulate your voice pitch. The other tip I would give in your preparation, clear pronunciation and enunciation of your words. So the way somebody speaks in patois is going to be different from English. Natural gestures and positive. So when it comes on to gestures, we mean nonverbal expression. So you're expected to give direct eye contact with your audience. If there's a point that you are passionate about or what your student body is passionate about, you could raise your alternate your voice pitch to show that. You could show certain hand gestures. That helps your presentation to be engaging and informative. So those are my tips in terms of organizing your speech presentation, how to communicate clearly, and most importantly, how to maintain your confidence in public speaking and reduce your personal anxiety. Now, there's another component to public speaking, and it's active listening and student engagement. We touched a bit on it in the introduction, but it's important to go over some vital details. So being an effective leader or to effectively represent any student body at any level, your effective public speaking skill involves a two-way dialogue. It's not just about delivering a speech at one point in time, right? At some point, you are going to be frequently interacting with students. And I always say, show respect and inclusion for diverse perspectives. Not everybody is going to agree with you as a student counselor. Not everybody is going to agree with you as a prefect, but it's for you as that particular leader to find value in that perspective and incorporate it. As a leader, you're expected to focus on collaboration and also finding balance when it comes on to solutions. So you're not just speaking about the problem. There are so many persons who can give you a wide array of the problems affecting them. And some of these problems are persistent across different cohorts of leaders, different year groups, different decades, different priorities, different ministry roles, and so forth. So it's important to distinguish yourself, not just as an effective leader, but an effective public speaker, is the way you communicate your focus on collaboration for change and collaboration in a very solutions-oriented way. So that is important as it relates to active listening and student engagement. And I am excited to move into this subtopic, which is persuasive storytelling. Now, stories uh, as a people who are from uh, communities that are or childhood that depends on storytelling. Storytelling helps people to connect emotionally, and it helps you to connect as a community with similar concerns and to understand especially complex issues more easily. So your story, what should it involve when you're speaking publicly? You're expected to use a short, relevant story of student concerns or student issues rather than a longer, complex, or a dense explanation. You need to connect your story to the broader student priorities. And storytelling It should be student-centered. It should be inclusive. It should be respectful. It should be accurate. And it's most importantly, it should focus on impact. So when you think of an initiative, a project, a program that you would like to implement to address student concerns, think about what is the impact that I would like to make on these students' lives. That is very important. And to bring that alive, it's the story that helps to bring that alive. Can any of you share with me an example of a leader or someone who you look up to that inspires you or their story inspired you?
Good afternoon. Good night.
Good night.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so my name is Kyle Hamilton. I attend DTW High School and I'm in Region 2. And one leader that I look up to is Ben Carson. He is a neurosurgeon and I believe he works at John Hopkins Hospital. And when I read his book, I remember the title of it right now, but his upbringing from where he started from, how he was viewed as what we call dunce in Jamaica, but slow. He had to apply
Mm-hmm.
himself to read books and understand. And by the time he reached high school, he was ranked one of the top kids in his whole school. And when he reached all the way up to university now, he went up further. And now he is one of the top neurosurgeons. And I like to look at the story as he leads by example because he
Yes.
follows words. He doesn't act on impulse. He thinks before he acts, and that is who I look up to. Thank you.
That is awesome. Anyone else would like to share an example of a leader or a mentor, someone who they look up to, whose stories inspire you?
Good night. Are you hearing me?
Yes, good night. We are hearing you.
My name is Onila Brisit. I'm from Mayday High School, Region 5. And this young lady who inspires me is Auntie Thomas. She is the founder and executive director of Sign Clubs of Jamaica. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing sign language ever from school, like 3 years old. And when I heard that she, did that at such a young age, I think she was in sixth form. It really inspired me to show that side of me. And a lot of persons don't really respect the deaf community. But as a
Mm-hmm.
young girl who sees sign language not as a club or activity, but more than that, it it stands out a lot. And to see her put herself out there and to stand up for the deaf community says a lot to me. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. I'm Anelia Archer again. I attend St. Jago High School, and a person that I really look up to, well, I have two main people. One would be
Yes.
my mother, and the
Yes.
next would be my staff advisor, who Miss Patience, who are Auntie Patience, who I consider to be family because hearing the stuff that they have been through and how they have went how they went through it and how they teach me right now how to approach different situations. It has helped me a lot, and I have realized why they told me to approach it a certain way. For example,
Mm-hmm.
um there was a situation at our school with a miscommunication with the executive body of student council, and I was getting frustrated and confused, and I was putting all of that on my head at once, and it became overwhelming. And they looked at me and they both told me the same thing, but they didn't tell me that exactly, and they related a story of a similar incident that happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
and taught me how to go through it. And I realized most of the time when I don't listen to them, I understand why I should have. So they have taught me a lot. So they're my biggest leaders.
Excellent.
Good night. My name is Emily Green, and I am from St. Jago High School. And one leader or role model that I really look up to is Odetta Rockhead Care. She's a Jamaican, and one reason why I mainly look up to her is that she came from a very humble beginning, and she even got pregnant. She got pregnant at a young age. And regardless of her getting pregnant at a young age, she managed to pull through and to make something of herself. And she even became the vice president at just 25 years old in a US Fortune 500 multinational. And it's really an inspiration to keep on, going regardless of what situation that you're in. Yeah.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Miss. I mean, good night, Miss. My name is Cameron Reed, and I attend Monroe College. A leader who I look up to is King Leopold II of Belgium. King Leopold was a was a very strong man. Strong man. In the face of Nazi tyranny, he went to war with his own soldiers, with sometimes bullets whizzing right from his face, and that really shows bravery in the face of a larger, more dangerous power, and he truly shows what masculinity and bravery embody.
Good night, everyone. Good night. My name is Sharini Brown. I'm from Region 1 and I attend the Immaculate Conception High School. One person that I would say I look up to, or one of my role models in terms of looking up to, is Steve Harvey. And the reason why I look up to him is because based on his background and based on everything that he would have endured during his lifetime, him being able to rise above the odds, rise above the trials and tribulations that he had faced, and being able to understand his purpose in Christ and understand what his goal was in terms of what he wanted to be in his life. And the fact that his faith had grounded him in being able to rise above his odds and be able to overcome everything, and after a while inspire millions through his talk show as well as his other things that he had done. So I really look up to him in that sense.
That's beautiful.
Good night, everyone. My name is Brandon Golding, and I'm from the St. Catherine High School. And one person that I look up to is Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines. Cardinal Tagle, he is a very humble person. He's had many interviews, especially during the past conclave last year. And Cardinal Tagle, he is just so humble, and he is really centered on humility. He often says that he did not see himself becoming a bishop, much less a cardinal, and he doesn't even like when people addresses him as bishop or your eminence. He doesn't it, and it's not that he doesn't appreciate the role or the title that he's been given, but he doesn't want the role or the title to, I guess, overpower the kind of person that he is, because he's very humble, and um he just loves the people. He doesn't do anything with any bad intentions. He's just a very humble person, and I think in the world that we're living now, humility is one of the best course of action that we can take.
Yes, I agree.
My name is Kyle Kamika from the Women's Boys High School. A leader that I look up to very much is Patrice Lumumba, who was the first Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo. I really do like Patrice Lumumba because on the Independence Day of the country DRC, instead of sitting down and allowing for the Belgian Prime Minister to outrightly and say, of course, out of ignorance, certain things about his nation, he stood up at the risk of his life when she was assassinated because he wanted to stand for his people and for the interest of his nation. I really want to embody that type of courage and the leadership capacity I have, hopefully, if I get what I'm going for here and in the future as well. Yes.
That's wonderful. So I will end on some suggestions for your upcoming media interviews, whether they're television interviews, radio interviews, as well as tips for debates. So the first suggestion for you, remain calm, remain polite, remain respectful in your dialogue with the interviewer and with your opponents as it relates to the debate component. Use clear statements to make your point. For example, if you're making a complex point, you can say, here are 2 or 3 main issues, and you expound on each. You can use the peel approach. You make your point, you explain, you give an example, and you link to the specific topic of your media interview, or in the context of the debate, the debating topic that you are assigned. When it comes on to having an effective or great media interview or debate, you're expected to give relevant examples, case examples, to align with your presenting evidence. So evidence can include statistical evidence from reports. It can include evidence from newspaper articles. It could be evidence from books, evidence from interviews with students, but you're expected to give relevant examples. So if you are a regional representative, you're expected to speak on the issues within your region. So if you're given an example, the example has to be specifically from your region. If it's nationally, you give national level examples while you're presenting your evidence. This is specific for the debate. You're expected to practice. And also, it's important to learn both sides of an argument. So that is how persons are effectively able to develop a counter argument. So you anticipate what is it your opponent will likely argue on this particular topic, and knowing who your audience is. Now, in terms of my closing remarks, I have 4 points. Effective public speaking builds trust and relationship with your student communities, as well as teachers, and as well as important stakeholders such as the Ministry of Education and Youth. Confidence develops through preparation and practice for public speaking. Listening and engaging with your electorate is equally important as being an excellent public speaker. And finally, stories make your speech or your public presentation powerful, relatable, inspiring, and empowering. Thank you very much. And as we close off, I would like you to think about this as your takeaway question. How important is public speaking and student engagement in your leadership approach? And we can end with a Q&A. So any further questions from this presentation? Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your perspectives. You are all talented, brilliant, capable, and you are not just the next generation of leaders, but you are the present.
Thank you, Ms. Renier. Thank you. So we have 10 minutes for question and answers. Do we have any questions for Ms. Renier?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Is it
Good
Zidane?
night. Yeah, this is Zidane Harrison. I attend Monroe College.
Proceed, sir.
Um, my question lies in that you discuss all the particular steps in public speaking and how to plan for a speech and how to deliver it. But another aspect is probably nerves and how do you overcome nervousness as persons as in the definition is in front of a large group of persons. Often persons have nerves and get nervous and
Yes,
normally
and I did mention that throughout the presentation.
well I guess I wasn't very
Um,
attentive. I'm sorry about that.
that is fine. So I did mention some ways to reduce your anxiety. I first emphasized that personal anxiety, especially before a large live audience, it is completely normal. Before you begin your speech presentation, if you're extremely nervous, like for example me, I tend to have very sweaty palms, and I tend to have racing thoughts when I'm nervous. So I tend to pause for a few seconds, take deep breaths before I begin my speech. So that's one thing or one strategy to reduce your personal anxiety. Another strategy is to imagine your audience being attended by persons who you're comfortable speaking with. That also helps to build your confidence as you go along. And third and most important point, I have said this in the introduction as well. To master the art of public speaking, none of us are expected to be perfect at the art of public speaking. Our skills with more exposure, with more experience, with more practice and preparation, we have enhanced skills. We have improved skills in public speaking, but there's no such thing as perfection. Aim for excellence, aim to have a positive impact on your audience, and aim to leave them feeling positive and inspired at the end of your presentation. I think bearing those things in mind and taken together helps to reduce anxiety.
Okay, thank you. Well answered.
Good night again. My name is
Good
Dejanay
night.
Connolly. Yes, so I was wondering if you have a well-prepared presentation in your opinion and you're presenting it, but you realize that the audience is not connecting with the presentation as well as you intended, what would you recommend doing in a case like that?
What would I recommend in that case?
Yes.
So I would say before presenting to an audience, what you could do to minimize or to reduce that particular incident. When you're planning your speech or preparing your speech, practice with a relatable group of students. And when I say relatable group of students, I mean students who are attentive and students who may not listen to you. You could learn a lot from them in terms of practice and preparation for that. Also, when it comes on to the live presentation, body language and engagement from the audience can be mixed. I would not advise you in that moment to change your entire speech presentation, especially if it is well planned, but you could adjust it to say, include a story, include a quote, include an audio visual presentation that may engage with them. So it's really about shifting strategies and not changing the entire presentation to suit the live audience you're catering to.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? What did you like about the presentation? Did the presentation meet your expectations?
Good night again, everyone. So I have a question, but then I kind of have a statement. Like, yes.
Yes, you could ask your question first and then you could share your comments.
All right. So, when doing public speaking, as much as you might like try to calm down yourself, but I'm the type of person who tends to like get really, really hot and have fevers before going on stage to speak in public. So, when you're out there and you feel that sudden rush, like what you said, if when the audience is not connecting to what you're really saying, and you don't know how to adjust it to fit better, would you like continue your speech and just follow along with what you are thinking about, or would you try to change it in a sense?
I think it would be a blend of the two depending on the audience. And as I said, with audience engagement, you're always going to have a mixture of persons who are attentive and interested and those who are not interested any at all. And I want to say something not just to you specifically, but all of you who are on this call or on this presentation, that there will always be an audience regardless of what you're saying or whether you adjust your presentation or not. There will always be a specific portion of people who may show disengagement. It doesn't mean that your speech is a bad speech. It doesn't mean that your speech is a good speech. However, I would say to increase engagement or to win over persons who can actually be interested, I would adjust some aspects of my speech. Um, if it's a case where it's a paper-based speech that you're making and you want to tell a particular story, audio-visual engagement would be great. Incorporating lyrics from music that is relatable and that is related to the topic itself that you're speaking on, that would be great to include and to connect with your audience, especially if you're realizing that they're either distracted or they seem disengaged. But those are some strategies you can use. Going back to the topic of nerves that you asked about, in your case with the sweating and the rush, I would say before your live audience presentation, you would need to brief stakeholders at the ministry or persons helping with the speech presentation of what you're going through, that in particular, so that support can be provided to you prior to your presentation. And again, think of your audience before you speak. And while you're having your nerves, think of your audience as somebody who you're comfortable talking with. And that helps to build your confidence as you go along. It will be gradual, it will not be quick. All right. So those are my tips for the two parts of your question.
Good night, Miss. I hope you're there again. Miss, I have a question. How exactly do you get? How exactly do you can't find the word. You sway someone into being interested in your presentation, and also uh I can't seem to remember the words today. Uh I can't remember the word. This I'm very sorry about that. But basically, just to keep an audience.
Okay. So most persons for their speech presentation, you are given a time frame. I don't know if it has changed now, but in my time it was 5 minutes. And when I was preparing my particular speech, I had practiced with peers. I had written this speech in collaboration with the student community I was representing. So I listened to their concerns. I observed it. A lot of the concerns that I brought up in my introduction were relatable, not just at my school, but for the region that I was representing at the time. So starting with a relatable story, starting with a quote that helps to grab your audience attention from the get-go. I also think to develop a speech that really engages people from start to finish, you need to be an authentic public speaking communicator. And by authentic, it means being committed to specific values, being committed to addressing student concerns, being committed to change, and also showing your creative side as well. So there are different ways of communicating that weaves in creativity too. So as I said earlier, for my previous responses, think about ways to engage an audience, especially young people like yourselves. Um, think of weaving in music, storytelling, dub poetry, but ensure that it sticks to the time frame that you're expected to speak and also the topic that you're speaking on. Ensure that it relates back to those regional issues. And those are some strategies you could use to engage your audience from start to finish.
Good night. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, so this question regards the debate, sorry. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're debating, right, and it's like mid-session kind of, and you lost track. Well, not track, but you get stuttered and overwhelmed kind of. How do you get back
Mm-hmm.
on and keep that's the same mindset to keep the debate going on?
Could you repeat? I didn't hear the last part of your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Okay. So I was saying regarding debate, when you're in mid-session kind of, and you have that little stutter and you're kind of, getting nervous and everything, how do you get back on track as a debate?
Okay. So for my presentation, can give share my experience with you to answer that question. I had moments where in my written and printed speech, I had hiccups or stutter over my words, especially in the earlier part when I was trying to establish and to gauge who my audience is. I did stutter, but the most important thing when you stutter or you realize that you're slipping up on words or you're making a mistake, you don't allow long pauses in your enunciation or pronunciation of your words to pass. You take step backs, you take deep breaths slowly, and then you take your time and make a return to a clear statement in your speech. I think that really helps when you stutter and ways to get back on track.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I am Akili Darling of Monroe College. I noticed that you were mentioning how you could include stories in your presentation, but I was
Yes,
wondering if you could suggest how you could tie it in to your
yes, I
presentation without
could. I
being
could.
version
Right.
from that.
So my
Yes.
speech, which is the 2013-2014 year for NSSC elections, I did start my speech with a story. And it was actually an observation and something I personally experienced. So at my school at the particular time, um, the students were complaining about injustice in the school and not many student leaders speaking up on their behalf, and each time they go to um, not necessarily student leaders but those who are in the hierarchy of the education system, like maybe a senior teacher, they would just say to them, oh, this is how things are, this is how things done, and therefore it cannot be changed. And I use that same exact quote, that same exact story in the speech to say, despite the fact that our school system tells us that this particular situation cannot be changed, I didn't say I as a leader, we are going to represent the change in student government. And that was how I started my speech. So that's an example of a story. So when we say a story, we don't necessarily mean something that is long like a book or a storybook or a bio that you're reading, but start with something inspiring, start with something that is relatable, and start with something that says, this is why I am running for this position. This is why I'm inspired to make a change on your behalf.
Okay, Miss. Thank you.
Yes, yes, Emily Green. A hook is important in your introduction.
Good night once more. I just wanted to make a comment for everyone on the meeting. Um, do not let your subconscious limit your confidence. I believe that if you believe those thoughts in your minds, it will definitely hinder your ability to really speak for about something that you're passionate about or anything relating to public speaking. For example, today I had to introduce a guest speaker, and I said a completely different word from what was in my speech. I said respiratory instead of repository. What I did to compose myself, I took a breather, then I continued. You know, sometimes the audience may laugh, but do not listen to the audience. You know what you are about. So, you know, make that the center point of your public speaking skills. Do not listen to the thoughts of saying, oh, what if I stutter? What if I mispronounce a word? What if I say a completely different word? Just know that you got this. You've practiced. I hope you've practiced. And you are not too focused on what can go wrong, but what can, you take from what you can take from that experience.
I also have a
Sorry, somebody has another question. Our other presenter is on, Mr. Javon Link, so I'll allow for 2 more questions and then we have to wrap our public speaking session up. All right, so 2 more questions. Who was that? Is that Anelia Archer?
Yes, miss.
Okay, go ahead. And then the person who would like to ask the question, just raise your hand so I can acknowledge you, and then we'll wrap up. So go ahead, Anelia.
Yeah, what I've also realized is that some people are really and truly just not going to like your speech or anything that you do, as a matter of fact. So sometimes you just have to be yourself and stand with your values so that when you do that, and even if they don't like it, you know that's what you align yourself with, instead of changing up your speech to please everybody and end up not pleasing anyone at all.
Thank you, Anelia. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. All right, I guess that's it from our applicants / nominees. I'll now hand over to Amira Cunningham to move the vote of thanks. Amira, are you on? Okay, I'm not seeing Amira in the chat. So Amira was from the JPA cohort. I'm gonna have an open challenge. Which member in the Jamaica Prefects Association applicants group will step to the front to cover for Amira in her absence? Amira was to move the vote of thanks and she's not here, so I am extending the invitation to another applicant.
I am able to do it.
Awesome. Go ahead, Chantel. Thank you.
Good night once more. I extend a vote of thanks to Miss McLaughlin for being our guest speaker and encouraging us on how
No,
to.
so hold on a second. Miss Rainier is a guest speaker. I'm just
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Miss Renier, sorry, let me start over. Good night once more. I extend thanks to Miss Renier for being our guest speaker on our public speaking session. It has been very insightful as she delved into different ways how we can tackle public speaking and how we're able to confidently public speak in front of a live audience. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chantel.
Thank you so very much, Chantel, for jumping in the gap. That's awesome. And that's
No
what,
problem.
right? Awesome. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Ms. Renier. And welcome back, if I may say. Welcome back. And I don't know if you're aware that the NSSC has an alumni registry. I'm sure Brian would have added you already. It's happy to have you. You can stay on for next presentation. So we're gonna
Yes,
move into
Brian had added me to the NSCC alumni group.
okay, awesome. All right. So we're gonna jump right into our next presenter, Mr. Javon Leng, who is also an alumni. He will be taking us through the manifesto preparation session, which is very, very critical for our NSSC nominees and also for our applicants. So our applicants, though will not participate in a manifesto presentation, they have a presentation to prepare for their interview panel. So it works well for both groups. So introducing our presenter for the manifesto session is Ziandi Harrison. Are you here?
Yes, Miss, I am here.
Okay, over to you. Thank you.
Right. Sorry if I sound a little stuffy. I'm a little sick. So Javon Leng is a youth leader and an IT professional. He was the valedictorian of Monroe College's class of 2020 and later served as deputy head prefect, vice president of the National Secondary Students Council, and a national youth parliamentarian in 2022. He earned his bachelor degree in computer science from the University of the West Indies in 2025, where he also served on the UWI Guild Council and participated in campus debate competitions. Javon currently works as an information technologist at the UWI, overseeing IT operations in the university's largest faculty, while pursuing a MPhil in computer science, with a focus on knowledge discovery and analytic systems. He also serves as a resident advisor at Chancellor Hall, leading development programs for adolescent males, and is a member of the National Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica, where he advocates for youth-focused, digitally progressive policies. It is my honor to introduce a Monronian, Javon Lake.
Thank you for such an introduction, Zidandi. Definitely an honor. Good to see Monroe still in these spaces. Good night, everyone. I'm Javon Lynn. Today you can just address me as Javon, and I'm definitely looking forward to actually shaping or helping you guys to build out your manifesto today, right? I must stand on the orders that would have been set. And thank you for having me, Sir President, Mr. Brian Anderson, and or YEOs, Mr. Leroy. I'm also seeing my very own YEO at the time when I was on NSSC, Miss McLaughlin. Thank you so much. So I'm just asking that I would be allowed to screen share. Okay. Just to confirm, is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I was tasked with the responsibility of actually putting together a workshop or some sort of a capacity building session in how the NSSC candidates and the JPA applicants coin their manifesto for this workshop. So we must look at how to create a strong manifesto, and not just a manifesto, but how do we actually present it with confidence. And before I get into the heavy content, I would like to do a little icebreaker. And that icebreaker is just a few persons opening their microphone, telling me their name, their interest, and I'm not sure if they're allowed to, with the guidance of Brian and Miss Charlene, if they're allowed to express their position that they're vying for.
Definitely, they can in this space because I won't see
Okay.
this campaign, but as a training process, so they are.
Okay. Guys, remember, it's an interactive workshop.
Okay, I was just speaking a while ago, but my name is Zidan Harrison and I attend Monroe College, as you know, and I am applying for a position in the NSSC Assistant Vice President for Region 5.
Okay, and Zidane, before you go, also one issue that you care about.
One issue that I care about?
Yes.
I am particularly passionate, which sounds cliche, you'll hear a lot of persons say it, but passionate about advocacy and making persons be aware about certain things such as mental health and stuff like that. I don't want to go into, guys, this is going to be a long thing. So just quickly, particularly mental health. So I'm particularly passionate about ensuring that persons know that their mental health is important and that persons are aware of that there are resources available to help them.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Zidane. Could I have one other person, preferably a female?
Good.
Okay. I'm seeing Amelia Brissett.
Good afternoon. Good night. Sorry. My name is
Good night.
and I'm from Mayday High School, and the role I'm seeking is Assistant Vice President for Region 5. One issue I care about mostly is bullying, and that's a big issue in Jamaica and high schools mostly. So, that's my biggest issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that so much, guys. So at the end of this workshop, our objective that we aim to achieve is putting together a tightly, well-ready manifesto, right? And that moves me into some foundation, right? And the first thing we have to ask ourselves before we can have the perfect manifesto is, what is a manifesto, right? A manifesto, or what I would coin your manifesto, is a clear and an honest plan that shows you how you will serve students in your role. And I want us to pay attention to the root word here that's used. It's you. So we have year, we have you, and we have year again. And the key word here is you. And this goes to say that your manifesto, meaning that Onilia's manifesto, right, is not Zidandi's manifesto. What makes your manifesto stands out is you, right? There needs to be some level of originality. You're taking into consideration three foundations, right? We're looking at service, meaning that you're focusing on student-centered benefits. It's not about how popular you are, but it's about solving their problems, right? Solving your peers' problems. You're looking at the feasibility, meaning that this must be doable within the restrictions of your institution, within the time limits that you have as a student, and also within your budget capacity. And I'm sure all these three factors vary depending on each individual here today in this meet, right? We're also looking at integrity. You must be truthful about what you can achieve. You must be respectful, transparent, and accountable to your peers. Meaning that you can't have a manifesto and you say that, all right, there is food insecurity. And your manifesto come that every morning you will ensure that students have breakfast, right? And you will serve, let's say, Nutri, right? That's one of the programs that would have been in place to combat food insecurity. The reality is you can't promise your students that every day you'll have Nutribullet with pink bag juice, because that's just not feasible, especially from just your budget. So you have to think about, how am I going to get this being done? Even if it's a case where that is the plan that you have, because I really don't believe that anything within our imagination cannot be achieved. You must set out how you're going to achieve this in your manifesto, and that is very important, right? So if it's a case where you're going to write to WHO or FAO and say, hey, let's partner, this must be coming out in how you present it. So in one sentence, I want us to drop in the chat, why are we running? Is it a case that whether you are running an election or you're looking to be appointed, I want us to do just a quick introspection into why we're here today doing this workshop. to be a candidate or to be appointed to the position of being one of the JPA members? Quickly, just a quick type in the chat. I see Cameron said to prove a point. Why are you proving a point to Cameron? To start the change I want to see. Right. That's a very good reason. Build systems that last long term. Right. Right. All right. So we all realize that we have a deeper meaning or greater purpose. We're all not running for the same reason, but ideally, you should be running to serve and to give of yourself and to make systems better to cater to your students, right? So why your manifesto matters, right? Very important. So we're looking at something called signals leadership, which shows you don't just want the title, but you have to understand the problems and have real solutions. So we're not running just to prove a point, right? We're running so that we can understand the real problems that our peers have, and how we can actually provide solutions, systems, right? So even that when we leave the post, there is continuity, which is very important in how we decide to put policies in place, right? Now, your manifesto becomes kind of like your script, right? It must be able to can give you clear talking points for interviews and for debates. Oftentimes in elections, the manifesto is the precursor or the points that's sent out before you go up on a debating podium, right? Because it is from your manifesto that you share and you defend your points. Your manifesto should also aim to build trust, meaning that it demonstrates that you've thought about the timelines, the resources, and the accountability mechanism. So in your manifesto, you should, again, never have a point when somebody asks you, how are you going to achieve this? The tenureship from my recollection would be approximately 1 year. And you have to also consider that I'm a student, right? Meaning that my primary reason for being enrolled in an educational institution is to learn. So you have to factor your time. Some people here, I'm sure, are also sports oriented, meaning that you're involved in sports, you're involved in other co-curriculars. So you have to factor all of these things when you're actually thinking about building a manifesto. I also want us to look on our priorities, right? Quality is always better than quantity. So it is better you have actually 3 clear commitments that are stronger than 10 abstract, really vague ideas. Clear, specific promises are easier to support and evaluate, right? And a tip I want to leave with everyone, voters, remember one big solution more than a long list of complaints. And I'm not limiting it to just voters, but I'm also looking at the applicants. When you're sitting in front of that advisory committee or that committee, that appointment committee, one big solution is really better than coming with 10 ideas that really and truly are not well thought of and they don't stick. Just something to bear in mind. So in building your manifesto, we have an idea framework, right? So the first thing you look at is the issue, right? The issue you're trying to solve, meaning who is affected and how urgent is this issue? Because urgency is of importance. There are a million things that's wrong that we can find and pick at, but how urgent is this problem? And is this at the forefront? Is this currently what's plaguing me and what I want solved? And that brings me to my next point, the data to prove the issue, right? That data is best collected from your demographic or from your voter population or whoever you're catering to. So for the prefects, it's looking at your students. And also your administrators, right? Also the ministry. For the student council, it's primarily looking at what the students want because that's more of an advocacy body, right? So I think the student council has it easier when you're looking at who you're catering your policies to, because that is more a democratic, you're elected. You're just looking at what does at the time what are the needs of my student? But for the prefix, you're not just looking at the needs of my student, but you're also looking at the needs of my administrators. And how can I meet the needs of my administrators with also the needs of my students? And sometimes even those who are in the council will have to look at that. Because while they're the needs of the student, sometimes as leaders, we have to say, all right, while these are the issues of the students, how can we reach a middle ground with what the needs of the administrator want so that we can all arrive at a solution to the problem, right? And not just having gridlocks. So the next thing you're looking at is what exactly will you do? By when you will do it and with whom will you do it? So you're looking at your steps, the people that you need to get you through those steps, meaning that your partners. Earlier, I had mentioned that if you decide that you're having a breakfast program, then you need to get food sponsors on, you need to get health people on, and you're looking at uh how large you want. If you're going large, you're looking at maybe a FAO. If you're doing something more within Jamaica, you're looking at maybe a Grace. And you're also looking at timeline, meaning how long will it take me to do this? And will I be able to can complete this in my tenure? Very important, right? Accountability. How will you report progress and get feedback? Meaning that after you say that you're going to do something, right? How will you actually say, I have reached my goal? That needs to be in place. How will you get feedback from who you are catering to? And that brings into consideration officer hours, where you can actually set up for the council members or aspiring council members, you can actually set up a Zoom and have actually students coming online and saying, okay, this is how we think you're doing. Sometimes it can be harsh, but sometimes we also need that to, get our ideas rolling and also seeing different perspective. And I'm also saying this is important in your manifesto, meaning that when you're doing your manifesto, the best data is coming from the students, right? And in the case of for prefix, get your teacher involved, right? So that you also have the administration perspective into things. So there's a golden formula that I want us to adapt, and it's because of this issue and the data I have, I will execute and report through accountability, right? And I'll say, let's say because of food insecurity being the issue, and let's say the data is saying that 67% of students in the morning don't have a first meal, meaning a breakfast. I will create a breakfast program with Grace Kennedy, for example, with a budget of, let's say, we're catering to 100 students, and let's say, or we're looking at $100,000, right? Every morning, $1,000 for the breakfast, or we could have it less depending on budget, $500, that's $50,000. And we plan to get this up and running by at least the middle of the semester. So you're looking at around October, right? So this is how your execution should look, right? And how do you know that your breakfast program is working? You do another survey, whether it is a poll, and you say, all right. And this comes after you get in the role, more the accountability side. So for now, we're focusing on the issue. We're looking at the data, right? Because you have students, and we also, in our manifesto, know after identifying the issue and the data, that's when you put together your execution, right? How you're going to execute it. And ideally, even I remember the first presentation was public speaking. This will be shared, right? Your manifesto is your precursor to what you will say and what you will share, right? So it's you jotting down, you putting down, and again, not jotting it down in a way that is complex, but in a way that is very simple and direct, all right? And just as I go through, you're free to stop me. You're free to ask questions, clarity on any aspect of this presentation. Could I just get a thumbs up if it's clear? if you're following.
We're following.
Okay. All right, awesome. All right. So we're back at another interactive session, or interactive part of this presentation, and it's the silent writing task, right? So you should ideally list three issues. Quickly list three problems affecting students. And I want you, after listing those three issues, to circle one, right? Choose a single issue that you can influence the most, right, in the role that you're applying for or that you're campaigning for or to campaign for. And I want you to jot down the facts, right? Note any numbers or patterns or feedback, right, that you already know and that can be used to support it, right? So this is your first manifesto commitment. And it doesn't have to be what you plan to put in your manifesto, because I know that for elections, you don't necessarily want your opponent to see what you're thinking of. So it can just be a random issue. But I would like for us to brainstorm that. If there's anyone who has already brainstormed it, you can just open your microphone and share. If not, I'll just pause for the first 30 seconds and allow you guys to complete that task.
Good night. Uh, I'm running for the position of Secretary National PRO in Region 5. And a main issue that I realize that students have is that they don't know about these organizations, like the NSST, JPA, National Youth Parliament, and so forth. They don't know about these things. And the thing is that these are possible missed opportunities, you know? And it'd be very good if these students were to know about these, because they can explore and, you know, enjoy their school life a bit more.
Okay. All right. So Cameron, still on the floor. I think you're saying that your issue is students aren't sensitized about the programs NSSC, JP, right? And as such, they're not getting their full experience of being a student. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. So it brings me to my next question. Are you able to identify why that problem exists? Why don't students know about these organizations? When you speak to your peers that don't know about it, what's the situation on the ground?
Usually it's due to they don't first of all, you have six farmers gatekeeping these institutions, and also the fact that these institutions haven't really impacted them in any way, you know, because there have been some students that they've never yet attended, like the national conference, exchange day, all of those other events.
Okay, so the issue is students don't know about these youth programs, right? And you're saying that the data is six farmers are gatekeeping, which is true. I went to a boarding institutions. I understand that. You know, some things are for the better perks in life. You know, you wait until they reach a certain level. So I understand where you're coming from. Uh, so we identify the issue. We know the data. So I'm now going to ask you, how or what are the steps you would take to fix the issue? Remember, the issue is students don't know. And from what you're describing, it sounds like it's lower school students, right? Because six formers aren't telling them or letting them in on the tea. So how would you allow lower school students to know about these programs that can help them?
By announcing by announcing application periods saying that yes, you can join. Yes, there's a possibility. And also to host events that they get exposure to these organizations, and also to hopefully have the six formers end the gatekeeping.
Okay. All right. So why I'm doing this exercise is because I want us to see how the idea framework, and as it says, the idea. So Cameron just suggested that problem, and we're ideating it. We're thinking about it. So, okay, I'm following you, Cameron. You're sharing it on, let's say, social media. But what we want to do when we're doing our manifesto is think about if this has already been in existence. So I'm sure NSSC and JPA, they have PROs and it's being PR'd, right? We're seeing it, but why is it still not reaching the lower school, right? So whatever you're coming with, how do you see, or how can you point it so that the lower school is reached?
Could you repeat that question, please?
What could you coin or put in place to ensure that it specifically targets the lower school, the marketing? So I'm sure social media is out there. I'm sure the PROs before would have put it on the media, but it's still not reaching according to the issue that you'd have given. So I'm saying, what do you think specially can be done so that the lower school specifically have the same level of access that the sixth formers have?
Uh, First of all, during courtesy calls or courtesy visits, we can have the members of the NSSC or whichever organization have them go to the lower school classes, have them speak about these organizations and encourage the lower school to join. And also we can have I haven't thought about this the other day, organizing events specifically focused at the lower school so that they get to
Precisely.
know these organizations and so forth.
All right, so I'm with you now, Cameron. So now you're realizing that because the upper school is gatekeeping, you have to know specifically target that population. Sometimes that is having these functions or these programs specifically just inviting the lower school, right? So you're looking now at where the problem exists, and you now have to put in place a special program for them. All right. So that's good. Now, to the final point, accountability. Let's say you are elected and you get this role. How will you keep yourself accountable? How will you know that, hey, a lot more junior students are knowledgeable of the NSSC and the JPA?
Well, to show results, work hard to ensure that these things happen, and when results are shown, that's my accountability.
Right. Yeah. And also an accountability measure could be your functions. Let's say when NSSC and JPA are having their week, right? Their church service. Before it was just six formers, and now church service has a lot more students in Kaki, right? So these are metrics that we can use to say, okay, I would have made a difference for the organization, and not just when I leave, but moving forward. All right, so we'll take one more really quickly. Is this Tishani Connolly?
Yes, it's Dejane Connolly.
Sorry, Dejani, go
I saw
ahead.
that, the sun, the morning. Right.
Good man.
So, in addition to the point that he was making about making lower school more aware, I would, for that, I would recommend having, as we know, most of the people in the NSSC and JPA body are in upper school, which is, sixth form and upper six. So why not have a representative from the lower school body that directly communicates with lower school from those organizations?
That's also another brilliant idea, Dejani. Well, Dejani,
Thank you.
sorry. And that is also what I'm saying. Your manifesto is yours, right? We all have different thoughts and we can collaborate. That's why I'm saying when you're building a manifesto, don't just, even though it's yours, don't just subject yourself to your own thoughts. consult with your friends. You might not want to consult with your opponent, but definitely reach out to those who are trusted, those who you believe are also looking to change these organizations in a positive light and get their thoughts in on what you're doing, right? So that's also a brilliant idea. Getting, even if it's not legitimate members, but co-opted members into the organization who are able or probably have a large pool within the lower school demographic. All right.
Thank
All right. You guys are on the ball. So I had put together somewhat of a template. All right. This is not the ministry template per se, but it's a guide that you can definitely use uh, when you're putting together your manifesto. So you're looking at the role and you're also looking at your target audience, right? So when I was in NSSC, I was a vice president for region, which I served in Region 5, right? So I know that when I was campaigning, right, I am catering to Manchester and I'm catering to St. Elizabeth. So I know that I have to think about that this is not a urban school, this is not a region one, right? So what are the specific needs for my region and how can I bridge those needs or at least start something that can be continued on? Because sometimes we can't fix the problem in the time that we have, but we must make a step towards the solution, right? That's ideally why we're offering ourselves to service. So you have a vision statement, right? And your vision statement is normally very simple, progressive. It speaks to who you are and what you are about, right? You have commitments and you follow the idea guideline. You're looking at your issue, you're looking at where the data is coming from, you're looking at how you plan to execute, and you're looking at how will you be accountable, right? Because if people are going to elect you or appoint you to do something, you should present them with a metric of saying, I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So I would recommend having at least three solid, and I'll use the word or the mnemonic idea, three solid plans, right? If you want to have more than three, so be it. But at least ensure that the first three is solid, don't pack tight. You want to set timelines for yourself. You want to also look at feedback channels, which is how you help to keep yourself accountable, how you communicate with the demographic. You're looking at the inclusion and also the access, right? Here at you, we have what is called an inclusion and equity unit. So we're looking at is the solution that I'm providing catering to just my friends? Because that's not your demographic, right? You're not just looking at your institution because you're moving now from the local level and you're looking to serve regionally and nationally. So you're trying to reach a wide set of students, right? So your thinking can't just be subjected to a local institution or just your friend circle, right? So these are things I want us to start considering, to ruminate on when we're thinking about actually building out our manifesto. So I want us to look at two case studies quickly. So we're looking at first the head girl, the head boy, which is looking at the prefects association. And these are primarily coined for local. And again, here we're looking at regional and we're looking at national, but we can still use this as a guide, right? So a vision statement can be a safer kind of campus where students feels seen, right? Because I remember one of the students said earlier that they're passionate about bullying, which I'm guessing no to bullying, right? So, and a lot of times students are bullied or are unable to speak up because they don't feel seen. They don't feel like they have a voice, right? So something like this, it offers a level of reassurance to such a student if they're supposed to vote for you, right? It speaks to ethos, which is the ethics and how they feel, right? So you're looking at, let's say, respectful hallways. The issue is 37% of students reported hallway crowding, and rude exchange in recent form teacher survey, right? And this is, I'm sure the prefects normally, they liaise with the ministry and they also liaise with their school administration to know what the teachers, what are the problems from administration. And normally most administration, they do have some sort of survey, right? So in finding out that issue, in this case, students are bum rushing the hallway, saying all sorts of things, and students are, and the teachers are like, please help us fix this. This is chaotic, right? So now you as a prefect have to say, okay, all right, I'm seeing the issue. And even though you have your data from the school administration, it's always good to get your own data, right? Speak to the people on the ground. Most important, those are the real people who are really affected and they can give you actually the best picture, right? So find out, talk to your peers. And not just the peers that you're close with, but all or at least a sample of all who is affected. And then in that now you say, okay, what I'm going to do is launch 4 station, which is called a kindness corner with monitors. And maybe in that corner you have something that somebody you can put a sticky note with motivation or something that is friendly, right? To make the environment friendlier. And you create a 2-minute corridor code video to say we walk in a line or something that speaks to the decorum while you're in the corridor. You also meet weekly with the dean, or in this case, the principal, to review incidents that has occurred and speak with those students in how, they could go about this situation better. And again, you're also very important point to note, right? Your partners are important, right? When you get into these roles, because again, your manifesto is like the skeleton document or the document that you put together about when I get there, this is what I'll do, right? So it is very important to remember that when you're elected or appointed, you have to rely on those around you because you won't be in the corridor every day, right? In this case, you won't even be in the corridor. You're getting reports from those who are in the corridor, right? Because you'll be serving regionally and nationally. So these are very important to know. You're looking on accountability, right? And again, this is publishing a 6-week update with incident counts. So you're saying, all right, since I've implemented this kindness corner and these videos showing normally 10 incidents a week and it's cut now to just 3 incidents a week. That is progress. Progress isn't perfection, right? It's declining chaos. All right, so study support. And I think this is another issue. For time, I'll just move on to the Oh, wow. Yes, I'll just move on to another sample manifesto. All right, so the vision statement here is smooth mornings and efficient lines that respect class time. All right, and you're looking on, I'll use this one, clean and green. This is environmental. The issue is the bins are overflowing near the canteen, which is a public health issue, and it observed consistently after lunchtime. And the execution is you add a green team rotation, 10 prefects, right? And you say, all right, guys, even though this is not what prefects should be doing, the reality is we live in a third world country and sometimes prefects have to chip in to help, right, the organization. So you say, all right, we're going to get 10 prefects or we're going to we don't have to do it ourselves. We can actually have a fundraiser to help with staffing, right? So I'm just showing you how we can be innovative in our execution because sometimes we don't have to get hands-on, but we can put in a system, which could be a fundraiser that supply additional maintenance person for the school grounds. Or you can do it yourself and actually have a rotation where we say, all right, we clean up at this particular time and you implement more bins, right? Partnership with environmental club, make it be a little challenge within the school, who can keep the school the cleanest, accountability, people taking photos whenever they do a cleanup and turn it into a challenge. We live in a meritocratic society, meaning that people like incentives. For those who, let's say, do the most cleanup, award them a prize, make it a TikTok challenge. We also have to leverage or 21st century, right? So these are just, again, ideas off the top of my head that I'm just sharing on how when you're sitting down to write your manifesto, when you're ideating, when you're coming up with that idea, you must put into consideration. So we're looking at biggest mistakes, right? That people make when they're doing their manifesto. And too many promises, red flag, right? You don't want to be making a million promises and you can deliver on 10. And when you deliver on 10, people are going to say, what happened to the other thousands, right? Because that's how people are. That's the reality, right? You don't want to be using vague language to say, we'll feed everybody. You can't feed everybody, right? We can't. So we want to use direct languages, or direct language to say that, okay, we will feed, let's, for example, the students or the top, or let's say a number, 50 students who are coming to school in the morning without breakfast, right? That's a clear set. So we know that that's 50 boxes of lunch, and we can account for that. No timeline or how you'll go about it. Timelines are important. People must know when. For those who have parents who are working 9 to 5, they have a timeline of when they're getting paid, and that timeline allows them to make decisions that allow you to go to school, right? So you must be able to can give people assurances, and they must be able to can trust your assurance. And this comes in your manifesto, because your manifesto is like your certificate of, I am capable for this job, right? Don't copy and paste slogans. Don't steal somebody else's slogan. You must have some level of originality, because people are putting you into these positions because they believe you have something that really and truly nobody else has. We're not putting we're not putting in Obama, we're not putting in or Prime Minister, we're putting you in the position, right? So be yourself, have a level of originality, right? But I'll just ask, and this is again another interactive moment. What do you think out of the 4 options here is the biggest, outright biggest mistake in creating a manifesto?
Good night again. I think the biggest mistake when creating a manifesto is to have over ambitious statements, like statements that you know, like objectives that you know are not possible, but you're still putting them on your manifesto, and also are over promising, as you had said earlier.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, Cameron. Any other thoughts? All right. Brianna, go ahead.
So I think one of the main issues or concerns when making a manifesto is when there's no passion behind it and when it's ingenuine or just generic in a sense, because overall the result yielded is it's not going to be personal to you, and so you're not really going to connect with it. And if you don't connect with it, how would you expect others to connect with it? So I think that's one
Right.
of the main issues when making one.
Right. So I'm seeing Achilles' question. Okay, Achilles, your hand is raised.
Yes, so I would say that the biggest mistake would be no timeline or how, because you can't be making promises on what you're going to fix, but you can't show how you're going to fix it, and you can't give a time of when you're going to fix it, and it gives off the impression that you don't know how to achieve the outcome that you're promising to achieve if you can't even give all the proper steps for how to achieve it.
Yes, that is indeed true. All right. Akile, I'm seeing a question. So are we expected to provide a budget plan and a time frame in the interview? And I'm guessing that's a JPA question. I didn't go through the ringers for JPA. But I believe in anything you're presenting, right? There must be, if you're asked the question, even if it's not in your presentation, if you're asked the question, how will you achieve this from a financial perspective? You must be able to can defend your point, right? And it's not just saying, I'll use sponsors, because that's vague, but who are those sponsors, right? Do you have pre-existing connections to those sponsors? That must be in the back of your head. And even if it's a case where, because things will change, sponsorship can fall, something can happen. Melissa came the other day, but you have to have a plan, right? That's essentially what I'm saying. You must always have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C if possible, right? That you can defend. Archer, go ahead.
All right, good night. One of the most common mistakes I see people making too is trying to please everybody while saying a manifesto. So then you'll be saying something and opposing it afterwards because you're trying to please everyone instead of being
Right,
yourself.
right. Yeah, that's true, Archer. So it's a really delicate balance. I think even so harder for, I'll say, the Democratic candidates, because essentially you need to win your election, and the reality is in winning your election, you're pleasing the majority, right? But the majority is still not everybody. And in doing so, I will caution you that your manifesto should be achievable. Your manifesto should be realistic. You can't please everybody, like Archa said, but at the end of the day, you're still trying to ensure that your plans are feasible for the majority, right? All right, so let's move to how we can fix these common mistakes. So for too many promises, we're not listing 10 plus ideas, all right? Prioritize again, and I'm not limiting you to three, but your top three must be solid. Commitments with high student impact, meaning that you must be able to can see how this changes the system or students, right? So don't use vague languages, meaning that I will improve school spirit, right? Add numbers, tell us how, right? Uh, is it a case that, let's say, this, well, benches, right? I know here at the university, especially the hall I'm on, they would, they're always like at the front, sitting, well, talking. There are no benches. Putting a bench at the front of the hall has significantly improved the spirit, right? And as simple as that sounds, because it's at the university level that a bench has created so much of an impact to the spirit, like you would be surprised to realize how simple changes can yield huge results or impact, right? So I don't want us to think that you have to do something huge, because the reality is you're a high schooler, right? We just have to be innovative, and we have to first know where the sore points of the problems are. No, timeline is important, right? So we can't promise result without a path on how we're getting to that result. So you're going to add either 30 to 60 or 90-day steps. And you are identifying partners, meaning that people that you're going to collaborate with, schools that you're going to collaborate with. I remember in NSSC, I would have done beach cleanups at the Region 5. And sometimes, even though, we're an organization, sometimes you can partner with clubs, because sometimes clubs have they have the pull within their specific school, even greater than organizations like NSSC and JPA, because some schools, I think, like was said before, the lower school isn't sensitized to what these organizations represent. And as such, you probably have to target them through collaborating with a club, right? So you have to think innovative on how you're going to do it. So don't copy and paste slogans, right? Tie each promise to a real issue and add context of your demographic for the schools. So a weak point is I will improve communication, right? But a strong point is you should publish a 3-line weekly update every Friday at 3 p.m. through WhatsApp and notice board. So don't come and say, I will do this. Show us how you will do it. And how you will do it doesn't have to be long and bulky. Remember, a manifesto is simple, right? It should be clear to the average reader. So you're not just looking at, oh, I have an intellect at the top of the IQ chart, so everybody must be able to can understand me. You will lose, right? A lot of people who, if they had understand, they probably would have chosen you. And this goes for those who are going to be appointed or looking to be appointed, and for those who are running, even more so, an election. Okay, so we're wrapping up. I know you guys have been on for a while, so I won't make it long. This is a manifesto clinic, which really and truly you go into a group of 3 to 5 people, but in time, I'm sure you guys would have somewhat come across these information somewhere along the line. But if you do wish to, you can just open your microphone and provide a problem through using the idea, identify the issue, right? And let's go back to what idea stands for so that we're clear on it. Provide the data, give us the execution and the accountability. And you are able to just chip in and help, right? Because at the end of the day, though there's NSC, SC, and JPA, both organizations looking to improve youth within the high school space, right? And their institutions. So it's open. Somebody just provide an idea. Or let's actually do it like this. Someone provides an idea, and then I would want someone else to open their microphone. And well, the issue comes first, then somebody else provides the data, then somebody else provides how they execute it, and somebody else provides how they will be accountable for executing such an idea. The floor is open.
Lessening the amount of sugary drinks in school.
All right, so issue, too much sugar drinks in school. All right, what's the data for that? Thank you for that. That's a current issue we have. Okay, waiting for the data. How can we see you? How do we know that, there are too many sugar in the beverages that we consume daily within school?
Based off looking at the back of the packaging, where it shows the amount of sugar in each, and then looking at the variety of drinks they sell and looking at the amount of sugar in each.
Okay. I'll also say this quickly, right? Because I'm wrapping up soon. When you're describing issues, right, with the data, it's always good when you tell like a story. So you can say, every day, like my friends go to the commissary, and the only thing that we can really afford are the sugary drinks. It's not that we want it, but you get what I'm saying? So when you paint a story, it sells more, right? This won't go into your manifesto, but at the end of the day, the manifesto, your speech is coming from it. What you will deliver is coming from it. So if you can find a way to make it connect with your audience, that's good. So tell a story, right? All right, that was good though. So looking at the nutrition fact to say this is the amount of sugar, and a surplus of students leave out the canteen daily with that amount of or that count of drink. All right, so how do we execute a step to solve this?
Collaborate with organizations that focus on nutrition policies in schools and have them go to different regions to talk about the issue.
Okay. But remember what do we do when we're thinking about execution? So you're looking at collaboration, and you're looking at different partners. Very important that you tell who those partners will be. And you must give a timeline, and you must give some, well, you don't, in this case, you don't really need a budget, but you need a timeline, right?
Yeah,
So
I'll continue.
right.
All right. So the Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, one of their main focuses is on the school nutrition policy, which they have helped to implement. So a collaborative effort can be done with them. And March is the nutrition month, and it's also the month where we focus on obesity in the world. So that can also be something that we look at. And these workshops and events can be done throughout the month of March.
Okay. Right. That's good. So we see where we're tying in what's occurring at the social environment into the plan. And that is smart because that helps you. It's a time when everybody is talking about how to be healthy. And you're literally hitting the nail on the head. All right, Miss Ventura. Can you go ahead?
So sorry, I actually meant to lower it, but
Okay, no problem. Well, seeing your hand was up already, you could tell us how we could be accountable.
well, my hand was actually up for execution, but with what I had for execution, I don't think I could be very accountable for it. In a sense, okay, hear me out. So we
Mm-hmm.
have a meeting with the school or the school principals or whoever's in charge of the canteen at certain schools or whoever's the head of that
Mm-hmm.
area or per se, yeah. And what I have at my school at St. Andrew High School for Girls, we have something called Water Wednesday. So one of the main issues with sugary drinks, it leads to obesity within high schools. And we have Water Wednesdays where no sugary drinks are allowed. It's just strictly water being sold in the cafeteria. So we could probably implement days where we could probably have more Water Wednesdays, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
only sugary drinks are bought on certain days, etc., etc.
Okay. That's actually brilliant. That's where I was thinking with the execution. It's good to see that it has been in operation within a school. But a way in which you could actually keep yourself accountable is to say, all right, if for the 5 days, let's say hypothetically 500 bottles of sugary drinks are bought, it's now reduced to 400 because you have Water Wednesday, right? And let's say I have another day where it's not Water Wednesday, but it's let's say using a Thursday, and for the Thursday we have like only crown water, call it crown water Friday or something like that, right? Where it's watered down drinks, then you know that okay, you're also factoring that that's another day where less sugar is being consumed, right? So these are just thoughts. Cameron?
Uh, I don't exactly agree with watering down the drinks because students wouldn't want to buy the watered down drinks, and uh, I think what students would have instead done is bring sugary drinks from their homes and so forth.
Mm,
But I don't think watering down the drinks would be such a good idea.
mm. Okay, well, I guess that's looking at your demographic again. Um, I didn't mean to actually throw water in the drinks, Cameron. I mean, like, for example, having coconut water or water-based fluids as opposed to actually having something more concentrated with sugar. But another measure can be put in place if students are bringing sugary drinks from their house, could be looking at, just sensitizing them, allowing them to understand the detriment of having sugar 5 days. It's one day, right? So sensitization is important, and it is actually one of the most effective measure in effecting change, right? You're trying to create a culture. You're not trying to enforce per se, but you can actually use soft mechanisms to let people understand that this is why change is needed, right? And sometimes you might need a hardline approach. So maybe that day say, okay, for the security, we're searching, we're not letting anybody in with water. But again, you employ a soft approach, and before you reach a hard line, you ensure that all parties understand why it needs to get there, right? So I'm not saying that's the first approach, but I do understand your concern and where you're coming from. I wouldn't want water down juice either. All right, so wrapping up, guys. So I'll move to the action plan, and I'm leaving you guys with, I would say a homework, but it's work you have to do anyway because you have your manifesto to write, right? So it's a 48-hour mission. Well, it's really up to when you have your manifestos to submit, but complete these tasks, right? To finalize your candidacy or before you go into that interview, draft your one-page manifesto, right? Or, well, with keeping with the guidelines that the ministry would have provided, the YPD, define at least your top 3 commitments that you're going to do. Please use the idea framework, right? It doesn't have to just be the idea, but ensure that there is a guide, an issue is there that you're solving. We see the data to support it. We see how you can execute it. And we see that, hey, I can hold myself accountable and students can hold me accountable to what I presented. Get feedback. Don't decide that it's my manifesto. It's your manifesto, but it's not yours alone to do, right? It's yours so that there's originality and that you have done the work to communicate with your peers. But again, you can get your friends in on it. You can get a teacher in on it. I'm sure that once anyone from the YAPD has the time, there are sessions like this where you can reach out to the alumni, people that you see that would have done this already. Very important. And of course, get someone who you are able to trust. I'm not sending you to go hunt down strangers because elections are elections, especially for the NSSC members, and you're vying for a position that someone else is also vying for. So take that into consideration, right? If you're nervous, for those who are going to have the speeches, record or do a practice video, right? Do a draft and submit it to, let's say, your teacher or somebody that you trust to vet it. And again, to these things, with, of course, the guidance given to you by the ministry, and you should be fine, right? I'm sure you guys got this. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope it was somewhat helpful, and thank you again, everyone, for having me.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Leng. I hope
Thank you.
your successors have learned a few things from you. It's such a pleasure having one of my past students here, particularly from Region 5, the region of champions. Yes. All right, so we'll allow for some questions now. Just raise your hand. And so we're doing 5 questions. So if you have any, make use of the opportunity. It's now 9:15. I know some of you have assessments going on and other competing activities. So I don't want to keep you too long here. So going once, going twice. I see the eyes, Mr. President. If you have a question, go ahead. No questions? All right, seems as if we have no questions for you. I guess I hope they have learned. Will you be sharing the PowerPoint you said? Part of it for them to use the model?
Yes, I could.
Okay, so you can send it to Brian and I'll forward
Right.
it to him. All right. So over to Craig Lewis now, who will move the vote of thanks.
Good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. On behalf of everyone present, on behalf of the candidates and on behalf of the applicants and nominees of the National Secondary Students Council and the Jamaica Prefects Association, I would like to extend significant thanks to our presenter for tonight, Mr. Javon Ling, for your insightful presentation. Your session provided us with a clear understanding of what it truly means to craft a strong and effective manifesto. No, you didn't just tell us what to include, you showed us how to think critically about our ideas, how to structure them properly, and importantly, what pitfalls to avoid along the way. One of the points that stood out to me, well, of course, was the entire essence of your presentation, the idea framework, issue, data, execution, and accountability. Um, it really simplified what can sometimes feel like a complex process. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that it gave us a practical and powerful way to ensure proposals are not only meaningful but also realistic and measurable. So once again, thank you, Mr. Ling. You are, a past member of the NSSC. So thanks to you for returning to us and offering your guidance and your support. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Most definitely, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us a wrap to our capacity building sessions for your preparation, in preparation for your debates, your manifesto preparation rather, not debates, because it's really a manifesto preparation, presentation, and your interview. I hope you would have learned, taken notes, and whatever material is shared, I will forward to you tomorrow. So have yourselves a good evening. I know the current bodies for both JP and NSSC will be having a sensitization session for you both to just soften the air. I know I've been rough, but I mean you all good. It's all love, trust me. But I want you to learn from now to be, it's part of the building of character as leaders because not an easy road you're taking on. I'm telling you. Miss Renier and Mr. Ling would have gone through the system. Mr. Ling more recent than Miss Renier, but Miss Renier can tell you from then, 2013 to now, it's not easy. And so I want you to take responsibility from now. NSSC motto says responsible students make the difference. And so it can translate over to JP. You have to be responsible. So with that said, thank you so very much for participating in this evening session. And we look forward to working with you all. So stay tuned, read the messages, stay connected, so we have the WhatsApp group, which is our main mode of communication right now. So check it periodically for updates. All the very best. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Renier and Mr. Leng, and all the best.
Thank you, and take care, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Take care.
Eternal Father, Father, bless our land. I pray you guide us with your mighty hand. Pray you keep us and protect us. Lead us into brighter days. Oh, we will walk by faith.